Hi everyone, this is going to be my final presentation video for Poli-Sci 494A, and my hypothesis is that the future of democracy is fragile, as demonstrated by the departure from democratic values and norms and the rise of populism across the world. In this presentation, we will explore the threat that democracy is facing, the reasons behind the rise of populism, and how we can strengthen our institutions and restore democratic value. The first is going to be challenges facing our democracy today. Political polarization. We have an extremely divided vote right now, with people moving towards ideological extremes. This issue leads to political impasse and government shutdowns. Looking at this through an American lens, we have our right and left, conservative and Republican. People are leaving no room for middle ground. No middle ground means no agreements, and if we can't agree, we can't progress. And no progression means no solutions. This is a huge issue for legislation trying to be passed, and for our leaders in power displaying poor characteristics of how to interact with someone of opposing values. Here I found this infographic that displays political polarization of the American public. As decades go by, we see the middle division growing. This is parted even further with polarizing elected officials such as Donald Trump. Next, we have rising inequity. In recent years, we have seen a major increase in economic inequality, which has led to huge frustration and drives populist movements. It is getting harder and harder to get a job. Wages haven't increased, our dollar is worth the same, and many areas across the US are becoming unlivable with housing and gas prices skyrocketing. We must invest in our lower and middle class and stop allowing for the growth of the 1%. People are looking for answers, and these populist leaders offer simple solutions that people buy into for some hope of finding stability. Next, we have technological disruption. The rise of social media and other technological platforms has changed the way we communicate and has allowed for a greater spread of misinformation and propaganda. Social media is something fairly new for our government to navigate. We must abide by our freedom of speech and press while attempting to minimize misinformation and hate speech. Next, we have departure from democratic values and norms. The first being election interference. We have seen, especially in the last few major elections, a foreign role of interference using technology to spread misinformation and undermine democratic processes across the globe. Foreign actors have used digital election interference to swing elections of opposing countries to best benefit them and their people. This is furthering distrust within our own institutions and creating unfair elections for politicians running on true platforms. Here I found this infographic that displays which countries have seen some form of digital election interference. Red represents any country that has, so we can draw the conclusion that this is a serious global issue. Next, we have rising levels of corruption. People are losing trust in our democratic institutions because of the major levels of government corruption, and this reduces how effective our institutions are able to operate. Deteriorating trust in our broken systems is stopping truthful politicians from being elected. It allows for the growth and greed and goes directly against the values of a democracy. Next, we have the causes of the rise of populism. The first being economic anxiety. Major factors such as globalization, automation, and technological change are sparking anxiety among the working class and allowing for populist support. It is a common notion in our lower and middle class that we are scared of our future financially. The government has made little to no strides in this and has left people feeling hopeless. I found this survey done on Americans and their thoughts on their financial status. 77% of Americans feel anxious about their financial situation. 52% of Americans have difficulty controlling their money-related worries. 58% of Americans feel that money controls their lives, and 68% of Americans are worried they won't have enough money to retire. Next, we have political disenchantment. Failures within current democratic institutions, such as corruption and gridlock, have reduced trust in our parties and leaders. Many issues within our democracy fall back into trust within our institutions. Our government continues to fail for many citizens, especially minorities in the lower class. This is creating a stigma around the role we as citizens play and diminishing our power that we possess. The key in democracy is power within the people. Next, we have implications of a weak democracy. International peace and security. With the disruption of democracies, we could see a huge increase in conflict and instability that can spark threats to global peace and security. The idea of another world war has been looming over the past few years. The collapse of democracies would only expedite this conflict. We must restore our governments within our own country if we hope to maintain peace with other countries in the world. Dystopian future. Losing confidence in our democracies could lead to a major rise in authoritarian regimes and human rights being stripped. We shouldn't speculate about the future, but we can make the educated guess that if authoritarian regimes become the majority, then we will lose many liberties, rights, and freedoms that we see today. Lastly, we have potential solutions and ways to move forward. The first being strengthening democratic institutions. We must invest in institutions such as our education system to help promote democratic values, and we must hold the people we place into power accountable, as well as empowering our civil society. We need to revive our faith in civic education. If people truly understand the importance of participation in democracy from a young age, it would make the system much more effective. We must use our voice to hold elected officials accountable that are not doing right by the people. We must empower non-state actors to also push for the democratic values that we must strive for to obtain a healthy democracy. Lastly, we have combat disinformation. We must develop tools that combat the spread of misinformation, integrate media and literacy programs, and implement some form of fair regulations on social media. We need to implement programs that allow citizens to understand the true impact of their voice in the online world. We need to educate individuals on how harmful misinformation and hate speech can truly be. We need to implement fair regulations on social media that don't infringe upon your rights while protecting the safety of the public and the people around you. Thank you all so much for listening.